Arya returns to Winterfell. Jon shows Dany something secret in the cave. And a funny thing happens to Jaime on the way from Highgarden. Basically the Dothraki Horde and Drogon. Yeah, I'm on vacation, but you think I'm gonna miss that? It's Game of Thrones! Season 7, Episode 4. The Spoils of War. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome of course to this week's review of Game of Thrones. So yes, lots of spoilers ahead. Of course, a little bit of change of venue, like I mentioned. I did take a couple of days away, a little decompression out in the woods. But if you've watched these reviews, you know that vacations, time off, nothing will interfere with the reviews for this show, and certainly not with tonight's episode. Lots and lots of stuff going on, a lot of culminations, a lot of homecomings, and a lot of just pure joy of some stuff that we've been wanting to see for a long time finally happened. So let's actually kick things off with the ending. The big scene, the attack on the Lannister army there at Highgarden, and the dragon and the Dothraki and all of that. We've been waiting for this. We've been wanting to see the dragons really in combat. So this is the first time we really get to do it, and they do not disappoint. It was a lovely kind of setup. And again, I mean, let me just start for a moment as we have the scenes opening up here. You know, we've got Bronn and Jaime doing their back and forth, and Bronn really trying to get his castle and all that. But to me, it was the interesting scene between Old Man Tarly there, that's just what I call him, and Jaime when they're talking about trying to get the troops moving on. Now, we do know the gold has already arrived in King's Landing. They say that straight off as the scene opens up. So we don't have any kind of recovery. I was hoping we were going to be able to interfere with the delivery to the Iron Bank, but that doesn't really seem to be the case. What this is really more of an impression of pure horror on the battlefield and just mowing troops down is really what we got out of it. But we do have that quick little scene between Tarly and Jaime there, where Tarly mentions about flogging and whipping the slow people to kind of pick up the pace of the whole train, where Jaime actually mentioning, you know, maybe we should take a moment to give them a warning first. So we're seeing a little bit more again of this mercy in Jaime, not the willingness to really be so hard, to be so cruel. And, you know, reeling from that last scene from Olenna, you know, he's definitely got a lot of stuff on his mind. But all this does is sort of set everything up really for this scene. And when we hear the horses, it was perfect how Bronn's just the quiet, do you hear it in the background? And the sound of the hooves, and then we have the yelling and the screaming and the sounds of the Dothraki really built up the scene beautifully. Gave a moment for the Lannisters to set their line, and we got that beautiful shot of the Horde coming over the ridge just into sight, and the massive numbers that were involved. Whatever defensive ideas that Tarly was trying to set up with a line and spears, it's not going to work with that volume of horsemen. Just the sheer momentum, even if you kill the horse, is going to mow through the line. So it really just opens everything up. And that was a great moment of scene, really setting up that tension already there. And then when we catch the sight of Daenerys on the back of Drogon, that just floored it. And then we have the dragon fire opening everything up and the whole lines. I mean, it's beautifully shot too. How you really get to see that fire and a whole line just mow everyone down, blow up, take out all of the granary, all of that food that they had gathered is now gone, which is going to be big suffering for Cersei and her army. Yeah, we don't have Daenerys getting that, which she needs to feed her troops, but at the very least, we don't have Cersei getting it either. So really a great scene, very impactful. When we have the follow-up there as Bronn is running through the smoke and the fire and trying to get to the Scorpion, the ballista, as we mentioned last week, same thing, was very intense. It looked very cool. The the horror. I mean, just the whole horror and the action. And we had the horsemen on. We had the Dothraki shooting arrows from on top of the horseback. I mean, it was really a great comparative of two different armies fighting and the styles. It was wonderful to see, and really again that tear that the Dothraki Horde have in legend and myth, and we get to see it. The Westeros army at least sees it straight up front. Was beautifully done. Now, the whole ballista scene, the whole scorpion scene, I thought it was okay. Little surprising for a moment that they would happen to have this, but Highgarden is very smart. If they're prepared with the dragons, they're going to send this out. So that surprise only took a moment. Some stuff, why was the hole open smooth, like flying in towards Bronn as he is opening up and targeting everything? The dragon's always lining like right up. Scoop, do some interesting maneuvers to get there. I don't know, something different. But a lot of tension, a lot of moment was nice. And then the injury and the fall and the recovery. This is showing the danger that Cersei represents to Dany's army. But I think that there's some mistakes that were done from Cersei's side in this, because now Drogon survives, of course, wounded. See the capacity of the weapon, it's now destroyed. But Dany now knows that they have that in the army, that Cersei has this, so this is something that they can start to prepare for. And I'm wondering if we're actually going to further armor up the dragons. We saw how effective the breastplate of the dragon was in the battle sequence. I would be curious if they start to armor up the wings in the areas and really do something really interesting with the dragons in that sense. Hard to tell. It's early, but it does start to open up the possibilities now that it's not going to be a surprise anymore for Dany. The last shots between Jaime running at Dany and Tyrion watching and begging for him for his brother to turn away and not to do it. Very heart-wrenching, very emotional. And then, of course, we have the last moment save. Thought that Dany might be in danger, then all of a sudden, I mean, no. Dany wasn't going to be in danger. I thought this was going to be the end of Jaime for a moment. When we have Drogon do that turn and open up the mouth. But Bronn jumps out of out of the shadows, out of the smoke, takes Jaime down, and they sink down into the water. No, I don't think Jaime's dead either. I think he's going to get fished out. I think this might be an interesting... you might have a reunion between Tyrion and Jaime, or perhaps Bronn and Jaime just sort of get away in this and are able to recover. I'm not sure which direction they're going to go with that. But overall, wonderful scene, great seeing really the damage that the dragons can do. Mowed it down. It was horrible. It was fearful. It was impactful. It was vicious. Very effective, and really just, man, we've been waiting to see this, and I think they carried it off very, very well. All right, Dany and Jon starting to get a little bit closer together. I love Davos's statement to Jon as, yes, I saw that you were staring at her good heart. Yeah, the attraction is starting to go there, and it sort of makes it, they really build that up, I think, even more here in the scene in the cave, which was really cool. I mean, on multiple levels. We've got Dany and Jon together. They're close, it's intimate, they're alone, so there's already a trust there. When Dany first dismisses the Dothraki back behind her and says, no, don't worry, you know, after having a little moment there with Missandei, who's revealing her intimacy with Grey Worm, that was cute. But leaving the Dothraki behind, leaving the guards behind, even Missandei and such, really saying how much she is trusting Jon, how much they're starting to grow together. And this scene inside the cave, real quick, just beautifully done. Beautiful lighting, the sparkling of all of the dragonstone, of the obsidian up in the rocks. Again, not a huge block of obsidian, but small bits peppered throughout the rocks and the facing. Really pretty, very sparkly. And then, of course, we saw the cave drawings and the story behind that. It's the children of the forest and the first men coming together, these two desperate people, in order to fight the White Walker and the Night King. So, you know, very much, you know, obviously a lot of symbolism going on right there. And I love the drawing of the Night King inside inside the cave, how the R's, they put little like blue gems where the eyes were, so those actually sparkle in the light. I mean, it was beautifully done. A lot of ancient symbolism with the spirals, its energy and flow, and I mean, you get a lot of these ancient stuff, and reminiscent of some of the artwork that some of the forms that the White Walkers were doing when they had the body parts all splayed out. A lot of those similar shapes and symbols as we get to see in the cave. So we're seeing a lot of those linkages together. So it was a very cool scene, and like I said, we got Dany and Jon getting closer, and I like Dany pushing that kind of moment here. I thought it was an interesting point to talk about bending the knee. How much I thought her approach towards Jon and why they should come together and he should accept her as the queen, and that if he doesn't, his people will follow because they ordered respect. They put him up because they respect him and they want him to lead. I liked her argument better. I thought it was a little stronger this week than last week when it seemed a little bit weaker. And especially her line saying, "Look, I will fight for you if you bend the knee," which a ruler should do. So it's not perfect yet. There are moments, but it is starting to really come together right here. And I thought there was actually a really good moment later on when they were talking with Missandei, and she mentions to Davos and to Jon that Dany was a queen that they chose. Because like Jon, who was chosen to be king not because of any birthright, Dany has been pushing her birthright, but not talking so much about that the people behind her chose her. Which is why Davos makes that following comment of, "Do you mind if I switch sides?" She's starting to look more appealing. And then later on, when everything sort of falls apart and she's able to look to Jon to say, "What do you think I should do?" Now she's asking advice. And he says properly, kind of the same thing that's been reinforced here. You are not here to destroy, so don't destroy. Otherwise, you're going to be just like everyone else, just like Cersei. Be different. All right, and lastly, we do have the whole Winterfell story. And you probably noticed in the beginning, I was not talking about my scene of the week. And you would think that it would be the dragon showing up because it was so cool and it was awesome. But not going to be my scene of the week. And I'm doing this from a heartfelt position. I'm doing this because this was the moment when it happened. I started tearing up. This is where all of the feels come in. So of course, this week's scene of the week is actually the moment of the week when Arya crests the hill and overlooks Winterfell. It was a beautiful, haunting, invigorating, emotionally circle, all of that right there. It was quick. It was beautiful, and you almost think it's like, who is this writer? Oh my God, it's Arya. She has come home. You guys know I wasn't sure when she ran into her wolf there in Numeria that if she was going to turn around and go back to King's Landing and try and take care of Cersei. But no, she did continue on to Winterfell. I'm glad that she did. But when we had that shot, yeah, I started tearing up. There was so much that was there. I mean, heck, even Bronn thought she was going to turn around and go back, as we found out later. So really, just a lot of stuff. Big homecoming. We already had Sansa come back and Jon come back and Bronn just returns. And now we have Stark. We have 3 of the Stark children back in Winterfell right now. It was just really not since season 1 have we seen this, and it was all about seeing where everybody has come for those moments between Arya and Sansa down in the crypt where they're kind of just seeing each other once again. It's like they're the same people. You know, Arya always wanted to fight and Sansa always wanted to be a lady, but now they are like more of those people. Now Sansa is the lordess, the lady of Winterfell, and Arya is a deadly assassin. And Bronn, who was the adventurous one, is now kind of everywhere all the time in his mind. So it's kind of weird how all of that has happened. But really emotional, impactful, really starting to see how much these characters have moved over these past 7 seasons, how much has happened, and how much that they have evolved. Now, Bran also in these sequences really showing off how far removed from humanity he is really becoming. That goodbye scene with Mira was incredibly heartless on his point, especially like as she said, you know, Hodor had died and Summer had died and her brother had died and she had almost died in order to save him, and he can barely get out a thank you. So there's a lot of interesting theories going on Bran, and I won't really dig into this right now. It can really get into some big spoiler territory. Sufficient to say that this departure of humanity on Bran's sense, could really potentially steer things in a really dark direction for him in the future. Sansa, very interesting when Arya brings up her list, how Sansa just kind of laughs that off and doesn't really take it seriously until they go back into Bronn, and Bronn brings that up. Oh, yeah, Cersei, she's on her list. Says that up again, and so Sansa's really seeing how much everybody else has changed. I mean, she's been reflective on how much she has, but Bronn's change has been shocking. Arya right now, very shocking, and certainly brought up really, to the most part, that scene with Brienne. Oh, that was just killer and beautiful. Again, lots of wonderful scenes this week. Scene of the week has a lot of competition. But showing how that fighting style has changed. We get to see a lot of her original fighting bit, how she first learned, and that dancing. And at the end, when when Brad asks her, "Where did you learn that from?" and she says, "No one." Going back to the back to that house of black and white. It was just so much had happened right there, and seeing Sansa's face on that, and Littlefinger down there. Arya's reaction to Littlefinger being there. She knows that Littlefinger betrayed her dad. Is Littlefinger on her list? I can't remember if he actually made her list. Anyway, there was so much going on, and so much of kind of the three of them back, and how much that has changed, and how much that is really necessary to set up the North and for what's going to go forward. Now, if Arya can tap into what Bronn is seeing and guiding her, and then Sansa get the advertisement, man, this could be an incredibly dangerous group of children to have crossed when this happened. So, just overall, amazing scenes, wonderful sequences right there. Really a lot of emotional homecoming, seeing how much everything has happened and where we get to start moving forward from here. All right, just a couple of small things here. One, the Golden Company out of Essos that our Bravos banker had mentioned to Cersei there. They are a group of mercenaries, very strong, 10,000 strong, well known for never having broken a contract. That's it, strong mercenary group. They were mentioned previously. Davos had tried to recommend to Stannis about hiring them in order to help take the Iron Throne, and Jorah Mormont once worked for them briefly. But that's it. So, mercenary company. Dangerous. Look out. Oh, and during the big fight where Bronn is rushing to get to the Scorpion, the face-off with the Dothraki horsemen, and then he goes down and takes out the legs of Bronn's horse. Oh, man, this is just... Oh, it's these exciting, differing battle tactics. I really made that whole scene juicy, seeing all that, but that particular moment, oh, that was way cool. And the passage of the Valyrian knife to Bran, very funny when Littlefinger is asking him, do you know where this comes from? Considering how much Bran sees everything. Now, it's never established who actually put out the hit on Bran's life. A lot of suspect that it was Littlefinger. There's a statement that he says to Tyrion at a point, talking about his Valyrian dagger with the dragon bone handle. But pretty likely it actually was Joffrey who was behind that. So just kind of an interesting moment there with the Valyrian dagger. And then, of course, as that passes thus to Arya, that's going to get some use considering how Valyrian steel works against White Walkers. So Arya getting very set, her fight with Brienne, amazing to show her ability to stand up to such a large, powerful woman and not only stand her own, but possibly there to beat her. And now looking quite sharp and ready to go with needle in one hand and a Valyrian dagger in the other. And it looks like Jon's about as happy to see Theon as anyone is. Man, everyone hates that guy. Alright, so I think that's going to wrap everything up for this week. Now, this was like the hump episode in our season 7 week. This is our Wednesday because there's only 3 episodes left for this season. And there's only 6 episodes left next season, which means there's only 9 episodes left of Game of Thrones. But we should have the White Walkers finally showing up. They should be showing up to Eastwatch by the Sea. Interesting point. If you guys look at the beginning of the episode, when we get to see the wall and all that stuff, the sea by the edge of the wall is frozen over. Hasn't been previous seasons. Is that how they're going to get around the wall? Literally just walk around the wall? We're going to find out next week. Stuff is going to go down, and I can't wait. Now, last week had a wonderful time with Mark over Enchantment of Eternity, and guest Acton Tomko talking about last week's Game of Thrones episodes. Chatted for 2 hours, dived deep, tried to answer questions. It was a fabulous time. Several of you guys showed up. Alex McMovies, Simba Trey, you guys are awesome to chat. Really appreciated. Really wonderful seeing everybody. So that was a great time. I will throw up a link to that here at the end. So you guys can check that out if you missed it. Now, if you did enjoy this review, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, comments? What did you like of the episode? What's your favorite part? How awesome were the dragons? Throw those down in the section below. Now, you can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. But if you are not a subscriber, why don't you be one? You won't miss any of these reviews. We got several more for Game of Thrones, plus Preacher, and a big slate for shows this fall. Don't miss those. You won't if you're a subscriber, and you can do that by clicking my face right here. That's the subscription button. And I'm going to throw up 2 reviews for you to check out. One, of course, will be our big 2-hour live stream chat with Mark and Enchantment of Eternity for last week's Game of Thrones episodes, and, of course, this past week's Preacher. So you can check both of those out. Anyway, that's it. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.